Have you ever put on somebody's glasses that had a really strong prescription, and you put them on and like everything goes blurry, everything looks distorted? The fact is, we can't see clearly if we are trying to look at life through the lens of somebody else's prescription. Someone that has a completely different prescription than we might have. It's impossible physically. Well, it's the same thing emotionally. If you've been in toxic relationships with people that invalidated your reality, invalidated your perceptions, then little by little, without realizing it, you began adopting their perspective and their way of seeing things, whether you realize it or not. And maybe it's not that you fully adopted their way of seeing you as much as you lost touch with your way of seeing you. And the reason I bring this up is because I did a video recently entitled How to Not Have Self-Love, right? I'm going to leave the link here. And the main point of that video is to really show that self-love after toxic relationships is not easy. But just because it's not easy doesn't mean that it's impossible. So in this video, I want to give you some really powerful tips that help you to uproot things that were planted in your subconscious programming by toxic people, things that prevent you from loving yourself. I'm going to show you how you can uproot it so that you can move forward and you don't stay in this place of seeing yourself through the negative lens of people that will only see the negative no matter how hard you try. Okay, so in the video that I did recently on self-love, I talked about how our brain is like a cybernetic mechanism. Again, which is just a fancy way of saying that it runs automatically. And its job is to simply carry out whatever program has been installed in it. Kind of like the AC unit or the thermostat in your house. Okay, so that's a cybernetic mechanism as well. So I just want to say something really quick about how the AC unit works, because it's similar to our subconscious mind. Okay, so if I'm setting my temperature in my house and let's say I put it at 71, my AC unit or my thermostat for my AC doesn't have an opinion. It's not going to say, Michelle, I think it should be set at 72. Or it's not going to say, don't you think that that's a little too high? Maybe we should go a little bit lower. No, my AC unit has no opinion about the program that I'm putting into it. Well, while our conscious mind is full of opinions, our subconscious mind has no opinion. It's not going to say whether a program is good or bad. It's not going to evaluate our programs. It's simply going to carry them out. The reason I bring that up is because if you were in a long-term relationship with somebody that was causing you to feel not good enough, right? No matter how hard you tried, you couldn't make them happy. So you start to feel as if there's something wrong with you. You start to develop shame, or whatever shame was dormant from childhood gets woken up and now is attached to the current shame that you're going through, and it just grows inside of you. Or they make you feel unlovable. They make you feel as if there's something wrong with you. They make you feel like nothing you do is good enough. The sad thing is that most of those beliefs are the toxic person projecting what they don't like about themselves into their target. But when it's said over and over, and when it's consistently drilled into the person, whether overtly or covertly, over a long period of time, the toxic person's belief gets internalized into the victim's belief system, into their subconscious mind, their cybernetic mechanism, and their subconscious mind doesn't say, oh, that's not a good belief. You shouldn't have that. No, it just begins to play the program of whatever we're putting into it. So then what happens is we begin living our life within the limits of those beliefs that were planted inside of our subconscious mind. And the problem with that is, and the part where it gets really difficult and frustrating, is the fact that even if the relationship comes to an end, even if you are no longer in any toxic relationship at all, those beliefs, because they've been planted watered and taken root in your subconscious mind, they are now controlling your cybernetic mechanism, and you're living your life still within the limits of those beliefs, even if the toxic person isn't there. And that sucks. So the real question is okay, so we understand that, right? We understand how it happens. The question is, how do you break out of that? How do you get to a place where you feel enough, where you feel worthy, where you feel good enough, lovable, where your identity is no longer distorted? I want to start with the belief of self-love, that I love myself, that I am worthy of my own self-love. And the reason I feel this video is so important is because if we don't understand what's happening, right, and we don't understand how to change these beliefs, what will happen is we will begin to start changing. We'll begin to start implementing certain goals. Let's say we start doing things that we wanted to do that show that we love ourselves, right? Maybe we start taking care of our physical appearance better. Maybe we start paying attention to what's going on inside of our mind and we start talking nicer to ourselves. Maybe we start reaching for things in life that normally we would have, held ourselves back from, because now we're trying to see that we are enough to be able to do these things. Well, if we don't change the beliefs that are in the cybernetic mechanism, if we don't change on a subconscious level, in other words, we'll start to see little changes in our external life, right? We'll start to see, oh wow, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then a little bit of time will go by, and then bam, our subconscious mind will have detected that deviation, and it will pull us back so that our life is in the boundaries of those limiting beliefs that are in the subconscious mind. In other words, the change doesn't start from the outside, changing what you do on the outside. It starts with changing on the inside. The more we change on the inside, the more the external changes will follow automatically. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to do that. So the first thing you need to know is what your beliefs are. Most of our beliefs are outside of our conscious awareness. Our beliefs are in our subconscious programming. So most of the time we're carrying them out without any thought. It's not until we become aware of the belief that we can begin changing it in the first place. So I'm just going to start with self-love, but you can literally do this with any belief, okay? The first thing, in order to be able to know what your belief system is, we first have to know what they are in order for us to see where we need to make changes or where we need to upgrade our belief system. So what you can do, and I call these coaching questions, because these are the questions that I use in my face-to-face coaching that helps shine the light on those beliefs that are normally below our conscious awareness. But you can ask yourself, when it comes to self-love, and then fill it in. My view of self-love is, fill in the blank. You can clarify your view of yourself. When it comes to who I am as a person, I am. Another good coaching question when it comes to understanding the beliefs that are holding you back is asking yourself, one of the beliefs that holds me back from being my best self is, fill in the blank. Once you know what your beliefs are, look at them and ask yourself, how do you feel about that? Do you like what those beliefs are? Are you happy with what they are, or would you like to change them? So the second tip, once you know what your subconscious is programmed at, and if you don't like the programming, you can ask yourself, well, what would I like to believe? Well, I want to love myself. So the next step is awareness. Start noticing when your thoughts are operating in that old system, and then make a conscious effort to change it. So for example, let's say throughout the day I say something to myself like, oh my God, I can't stand myself. And I notice it and I'm like, oh, there's a thought that's keeping me in that old programming. And then let's say I try to say, no, I don't, I love myself. Now we're trying to change the thought. I was talking to someone close to me recently about this, and she was like, Michele, that sounds awesome. Like, I'm now aware of my thoughts, because she hadn't even been aware of her thoughts before. Now they're in her conscious awareness. She's like, and I now change the thought, but I don't believe what I'm saying. If I say something positive, like I love myself, I don't believe the positive, I believe the negative. So part of this second step, I told her, and I'm telling you, is to show your mind that it's a choice. So in her case, her old programming was, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. And she was noticing it, and she was saying, oh no, I am good enough, but she wasn't believing it. So I told her to say to herself, I choose to not be good enough. And she was like, I don't choose that, Michele. And that was the whole point. Her mind was believing the old belief because she heard it for so long. And her mind didn't realize that it actually had a choice. Once she started putting in front of every negative belief the words, I choose this negative belief, she said it automatically dissipated, because her mind was like, no, I don't choose that. That's not my personal choice. Once her mind saw that she had a choice, she could then say, well, what do I choose? And that allowed her to notice the old belief, acknowledge it, recognize she had a choice, and change it while believing it, because she got to see that it was a choice. But that's for the second part. The third part of changing your subconscious beliefs so that they stick, so that you don't wind up changing for a certain period of time and then getting sucked back into the old way of thinking, is your subconscious mind needs evidence. It changes not by one day. It doesn't change with one thing you do, but it's the consistent everyday things that you do that provide it with evidence of the new belief. So for example, when it comes to self-love, now you know what the belief is you have, you know how you can be aware of it, and how you can believe the changes that you're implementing. So the consistency comes with providing evidence for your subconscious mind. And all you have to do every day is ask yourself, how am I showing self-love to myself today? Find tiny little ways. This is so powerful. This last tip is so powerful because most of the time we try to shove in our subconscious mind, I love myself, I love myself. Meanwhile, our subconscious mind is full of evidence that we don't. So it just kind of blocks everything that we're trying to put into it because it's incongruent with what is already there. But if you ask your subconscious mind, well, what am I doing today? Or how am I loving myself today? And you start coming up with answers. Well, I got out of bed today. I cleaned my house. That shows that I care about my environment. I exercised self-care. I got ready for the day. I took a shower, I brushed my teeth, I did my hair. I'm listening to my mind, and I'm talking to myself so much more compassionately. All of those little things that you begin to notice, you're actually helping your subconscious mind to see that you really do have self-love. You really do see your value. It's just that for so long you've been staring at what the toxic person said about you that you forgot to look for the good. So now you're training your brain to see the good in you again. If you follow those 3 steps, and yes, they do take effort, they do take work, staying in life, living it through the lens of the toxic person requires no effort whatsoever. Because the toxic person has done the repetition. The toxic person has pointed out the negative for so long. The toxic person has done the work for you, and over such a long period of time that because it's in your subconscious mind, it's automatic. You don't have to think hard. You don't have to think at all to see something negative in yourself or to feel bad about yourself. It's automatic. So yes, in the beginning, these exercises, they take work. They're not easy. I wish I could give you a pill and say, take this, and tomorrow, you know, your shame and your shame wounds are going to be gone, and your self-love is going to be super strong. No, there's no pill for that. It does require effort, but here's a piece of evidence you can begin giving your subconscious mind. Every time you strive to put these tips into practice, you are showing yourself that you are worth the time and energy for.